Alright, hello. Before I begin today's video, I swear I'm not just copying Ifta. I wanted to make this video before Ifta's video, but I'm a lazy fucker and I didn't actually do it. Now, that's out of the way. Let's see what primary compression has to offer after some bug fixes. Well, I can already tell you that the Arcane is still really bugged. Like, extremely bugged. And I can just show you why. Simply because, well, there is just a ton of weapons that still simply do not work with this Arcane. Specifically, you will see that there is all of these weapons inside the wiki, all of these, that it doesn't work. And yes, if you search the primary compression Arcane on the wiki, you can see how, how it works with everything else. Now, the very interesting thing about primary compression is that I saw this. Artemis Bow Concentrated Arrow works 100% effectiveness and multiplies for a max damage bonus of 800%. I think you can reach more. If I remember correctly, I could reach way more than 800%. But a multiplicative damage of 800%. Previously, the best Arcane you could get is a Longbow Sharpshot, right? A Longbow Sharpshot is merely 300%. So 800% is a big difference, but of course you get the 0.2x explosion radius, so what the hell, what do you do, right? Well, the good thing about Concentrated Arrow and how it got reworked recently is that it's now 100% blast damage. It's only blast. And because it has some status chance, you can make it so that it does blast procs on the initial explosion. And that helps because the blast procs give you the AoE you would be missing from the ability. So yeah, this build, quite a bit of range of 265. You probably don't need that much. From my testing, this is already way too overkill. And then Artemis Bow Prime is built like this with Prime Firestorm. I actually did find Prime Firestorm worth it, but obviously if you don't want it, you can easily go for something like Vital Sense, and that still works, especially if you don't have the mod. But some stuff that are very important. Arcane Sculptor. You can actually trigger this by using the dash wire. Yes, the dash wire quiver procs Arcane Sculpture, which means that you can completely bypass efficiency and get 175%, so you can permanently use Artemis Bow. And then for anything else, you can just run Equilibrium with any pet that gives you health orbs and you're good to go. So, at the end of the day, this is how it kind of looks like. You cast dash wire, then you can cast all of your abilities. And as you can see, not a lot of damage at first, but then the blast proc comes in and yeah, it's quite powerful. And you just need to cast dash wire every 12 seconds, and as you can see, my energy regeneration is absolutely incredible. So we never have issues with anything. This is a far better way to play Concentrated Arrow on Ivara. Although I do like the initial bleed proc and all that you can do, because now we can put so much more strength to take advantage of Roar, this just makes it 100,000 times better. And I do believe my Artemis Bow Prime has a Bane mode. Yep. And I'm simply gonna remove it for the test for Vital Sense, because I can do that and I won't lose too much damage. So I can go into the Void and actually test it here. But yeah. Ivara with Concentrated Arrow is way better now with primary compression, and I didn't really expect it because at the start we didn't know like how primary compression exactly functions, if it's additive, multiplicative, or anything like that. Turns out the game doesn't know either. It turns out that primary compression is just another one of those very weird arcades that just sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and I'm on base still path. Alright. Now that I'm not in base Star Earth, let's do this. So, dash wire arrow, 3, 2, 4, literally full energy still, especially when I grab that thing over there. And I can probably use the Altfire and proc Sculpture. Does that work? Yes, you can actually proc the Altfire. You can proc Sculpture by shooting the Altfire on Artemis Bow and shooting a dash wire arrow like that, which is really cool. And then you just aim for enemy headshots, which I'm not succeeding right now. How was that not a headshot? There we go. But yeah, it's actually quite powerful in terms of damage. And obviously, if you ever need to stun the enemies, you can always swap your arrow and go for a sleep arrow, and then alt fire. And boom! Now we can easily trigger headshots on enemies if we need to do that. But yeah, as you can see, no energy issues whatsoever. Very powerful in general. If you can aim, I can't aim. I just woke up, so bear with me. Cat. But one thing I will say is that, as you can see, these enemies didn't take damage at all because of the lower range. Normally with concentrated arrow you would easily hit those enemies up there, but because of that far lower range we don't actually hit them. And the other enemies that are all grouped up, because of the blast procs, they absolutely get one tap. So it is definitely something to keep in mind when you want to do something like this. Like for example, I hit that guy on the head, nobody died, but he did get 65 million damage, which is pretty impressive, even without roar. But at the same time, nobody else near them actually took any damage because of the lowered range of concentrated arrow. So yeah, this isn't obviously the best. It's way more chill. As you can see, I'm not really doing any high kills per minute here. I'm just chilling around and doing stuff, taking my time, which is how Ivara is most of the time. So this doesn't like change her playstyle at all. If you don't like Ivara's playstyle, you're not gonna like this build at all. But it is pretty fun to fuck around with. I love how the enemies are so erratic, so you can headshot shots. Thank you, my guy, for standing still. You're the GOAT. But yeah, permanent invisibility, a lot of damage. So if you do hit those headshots, you are gonna one-shot anybody pretty much, and that's actually pretty fun. The damage numbers do get kind of funny. I wish I could do a better... Wait, actually? I don't need it, but I can do that whenever I want, obviously. Oh, my cat. I hate when it does that. Okay. It's one thing about Ivara I don't like. Your cat will target targets that are slept. They will get the wake up threshold and then you will miss. But yeah, I think with a bit of practice you can easily get some really good stuff going on here, not gonna lie. It's overall pretty funny. I think on Garo, going from like a bleed heavy build to a blast and bleed heavy build, so like for example, we can shoot this guy, blast proc everyone, 65 million damage on that guy. And then if they don't die from the initial hits, they get bleed proc, and then the bleed proc kills them, which procs the blast proc, and then it one-shots them. And obviously because of all the dash wires, if you want, you can also run the other augment for more crit damage, and that can work. But yeah, as you can see, it deals quite a bit of damage. Also, I forgot to show swords, so I will add a timestamp that shows the swords at the end. My bad on that one. For those actually watching and don't want to wait, the swords are for 3 primary status chance and 2 ability strength. Oh yeah, and obviously you don't actually have to charge the arrow, you can just tap it, especially in these low level guys, and it just works normally. But you know, holding it does give you the crit chance, which adds more damage, so I like holding it. It's truly up to you how you want to play this build, but I like being chill about it. Just standing in one place, waiting for enemies, waiting for things to happen, and then just shooting the enemy in the head and killing everyone. Like that. It's Ivara though, it's not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, I know that. I just wanted to show like the fact that, you know, this is actually like not a bad thing you can do right now with her. It's still Ivara, so she's still slow and methodical, and that doesn't change, and you can't really change that without reworking the character. But it's still pretty funny. Let me get my last Eximus skill for Nightwave, because, you know, I think... Yep, that's good. Just... Boom. Okay. Again, I just wish I could be faster while using Prowl. I understand why I can't. The ability is literally called Prowl, so you know, whatever. But overall, I think as a solution to Ivara's damage from Artemis Bow, this is a really good solution. Like, we're gonna see from compression, top right, 1730% multiplicative damage that can stack up with Roar. And if you want, you can also remove some range to add crit damage to the build through, what do you call the augment? Empowered Quiver, yeah. So yeah, you have quite a bit of things. Also, yeah, you saw how my energy went down immediately without Arcane Sculpture. This is why we wanna be casting our alt fire on Artemis Bow to proc Sculpture and get to 175% efficiency. In general, there is a lot of things working together here to make for a very decent Ivara build. Probably one of the strongest Ivara builds, to be honest. Like, if you want to use Artemis Bow specifically, this build is definitely the best one right now. It completely outdamages and outpaces the previous Artemis Bow and Concentrated Arrow build by a lot, like a ton. And yeah, overall, just very, very powerful. Here's the builds again. This one, as I said, if you want, you can put Empowered Quiver since you're casting the Dash Wire so often instead of Agu Reach, and that will help, but it will lose you like 1 meter of range, which is kind of a big deal. Oh, 2 meters of range. Yeah, 2.10 meters of range if you use Empowered Quiver. But you will get the critical damage from Empowered Quiver, which will be, let's see, if you use Crepuscular, that's 30% extra, so 214%, 254% with Madurai, 304% with Energy Conversion, so that would be around... that will be 304% critical damage to your Artemis Bow, which is probably worth it. I'm actually gonna do that. You're gonna lose a bit of damage from primary compression, but I mean 300% critical damage to this. You will go way over 10 times critical damage. Yeah, that's probably worth it. I think that's worth it, Loki. Because remember, the blast procs are what's dealing the damage here and what's benefiting, not the actual, you know, not the actual initial hit or the bleed procs that come right after. Although we do want to bleed proc still. We do use internal bleeding. We do want to bleed proc still. It does help, so I definitely recommend it. But yeah, this definitely looks like, you know, the same build kinda, but maybe even improved like that. I think I'm gonna stick with this, but if you don't want to, you can easily do this. But I do like Empowered Quiver here, and I think it's gonna be really good. While having so many quivers around, you can just play around them, walk on top of them, get easier access to headshots because you're above enemies and you have better line of sight. It should work pretty well. That's kind of the new Ivara setup that I've been cooking. The Archon Shards, 3 primary status chance, and 2 ability strength. And yeah, you don't actually need any weapons. It's pretty great. You have great energy regeneration. I'm not even sure if you need Equilibrium. I just have it here just in case I forget to cast Arcane Sculpture and I need a ton of energy real quick. That can easily help with maxing out my energy really, really quickly. And then obviously on Artemis Bow, I actually did try to go for something like a pure damage build, something like that. But I found out this to be way, way better in practice because the internal bleeding bleed procs are still really, really powerful. And they do help you to proc the blast procs from Artemis Bow, which helps quite a bit. So yeah, if you want something more chill, you don't want to be a crackhead for once that's just running around and killing everyone, and you want to take your time, aim at heads, and then see everyone go poof, then this build might be for you. Thank you very much for watching another video of mine, and I will see you on the next one.